mercy. And then, and of course, the cow's milk can cause the bones to be weakened as well.
Right,
I think I read something like that, which is crazy because we've been taught that you want strong bones and teeth to drink it. One thing, you going back to the baby, you know, first of all, I didn't know milk was a complete food until I saw your video, and I thought, I mean, but then I thought, well, babies, of course it's a complete food. Look what God gave to the babies.
You can live off of it for the first 5 years of your life, nothing else.
Yes, and it's you just think about it. But then you also mentioned that, you know, we went through a season, and I'm sure some people still go through it, where instead of breastfeeding, they are giving the children, the babies, the formula, maybe, or cow's milk, and the kids are trying to, they're spitting. And I've seen this, and I didn't think of it the way you said it, that their bodies are not really doing well with that, and we keep forcing it down them until they get used to
earaches, and they're spitting up, and we just wipe it away and push the bottle back in the mouth.
Well, yes, I never thought about that.
Spitting up, regurgitating all. You don't see breastfeeding babies regurgitating unless the mother is, of course, sick. But you're right. You're absolutely right, Cynthia.
That's just really amazing.
But you can live off. The standing joke I use is you can. There are cases where some people's digestion is so weak that the only thing they can live off of is mother's milk. But when I do my presentation on milk, I said I look kind of funny though, hanging off my mother's breast at the age of 50. You know, so you know, you want to always temper philosophy with practicality. So in point of fact, you can live off of it for 5 or more years, but you know, after you get those teeth and everything, it's about time to move off of milk and eat a little bit stronger foods.
And you mentioned juvenile diabetes as well.
Yes, a lot of the juvenile diabetes is not juvenile. I found this out by accident, Cynthia, working, because you know, I went to the same schools everybody else did. Now, they didn't know about food combining. I did, right? So I'm working with, and I'm working with these people with the juvenile diabetes, and I was using the same line that everybody else was. Well, if it's juvenile diabetes, is can't be corrected, blah 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 blah. And I was getting these miracles, putting them on the program that I was on. And you know what? They don't have diabetes. What they have is type 2 diabetes is adult onset diabetes, right? You usually don't get it until your adult life. Years of abuse, right? The sugars and digestion, etc. What I found out, a lot of the juvenile diabetes is really early adult onset diabetes. So rather than getting in their 20s or 30s or 40s, they were getting it at the age of 2 and 3. And why? Well, the mother, was in a compromised state of health, had the baby, all the stresses and everything, didn't feed them breast milk. And it happened to be one of those cases. Matter of fact, it was a couple that was divorced. And the father is the one that came to my presentation. He said, you know what? Everything you say, when I do all the stuff that the doctor told me to do, I need higher insulin. When I did what you said, I noticed the insulin requirements are lower. I said, yeah. And as he continued to work with me, the insulin requirements were completely unnecessary after a matter of weeks. And that, I'm not going to go into more detail. There's a whole story with that. Of course, when he went over to the wife, when it was her turn to have the baby, they were separated, right? The diabetes would come back. And so I had to go in. Actually, I gave complimentary consultations to her because the husband was just frustrated. And unfortunately, when some of these breakups aren't amicable, wouldn't listen to him. But so she came to me, and the only complaint she had was, but doctor, she was in her 20s. She said, but doctor, this is difficult. He wants to eat this, that, and the other thing. And blah, blah. I said, you know what? As adults, we're responsible for the kids. If he wanted to play football out in the middle of the street, what would you say? I said, oh, no, doctor. Well, you have to intercede until they're at an age to make their own decisions. And after that, she finally got it. And to her, it was kind of an inconvenience, right? because, you know, doing the food combining this, that, and the other thing is she was in her 20s. She wanted to have a life and dating and all of that. But she found that when she observed these food combining principles and got rid of, as a matter of fact, what the doctor was recommending is that they have something like 20 to 30 ounces of chocolate milk a day to make sure that he was getting all of it. Yeah. See, so you don't even have to be a rocket science to figure out some of the stuff that doesn't make sense. So like I said, they figured it out. And that's what we need to do, Cynthia, just like you're doing. It's a matter of just working with people where they are, sharing with them and helping them to the extent that they want to be helped. And some don't care, but those that do, you work with them, being a faithful and obedient servant, not lord it over them. You're not in charge. God is in charge. Point them to the master healer and then and to his principles. And guess what? Miracles occur. That's why cancer and most, now I have another presentation where I actually prove this point a little bit further, but cancer and the things that 80% of the people die of, which is what? It's cancer or high blood pressure, cardiovascular disease. Over 95% of it will disappear overnight with God's natural health laws. It will. And what is the largest financial sector out there? It's the health sector.
Yes.
It's the most, we have the most expensive system in the world. And of all the developed countries, we rank 37 of the developed countries. So we spend more and we have the worst outcomes because we're trying to do it outside of God's laws. That's why I talk to people. I said, you know, do you know what the two most powerful supplements are for diet and food combining? The vitamins B and vitamin O. And I know you know what they are, but I'm going to tell you what they are again. You probably heard me say this before. It's the Bible and obedience. Vitamin B and vitamin O. You read your Bible and you obey it. It is the most powerful health system known to man. So that's why you don't see me equivocating, because I can prove it. And you can be the laboratory for proving it. With this original medicine, God's system is the most powerful system known to man for preventing and reversing all chronic degenerative diseases. And food combining is a piece of that. His laws, his health laws, his nutritional concepts and principles.
Okay, the final rule, Rule 8, refined and processed food combined poorly. Please discuss this rule. And you mentioned white blood cells, I believe, for this rule, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, that's a perfect segue to what I just said about obedience to God's laws. Now, refined and processed foods, God had nothing to do with them. These are all man-made foods. So this is the food manufacturing industry trying to replace God's manufacturing facility, which is fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, grains, etc. Even meat as part of God's program. Right? Now, these refined and reprocessed foods are devoid of natural enzymes, cofactors, anything for assimilation. So the standing joke I use for that is, here's the digestive system, this guy looking up in the stomach, and you put this thing down there, and the amylase is talking to the protease. Then they said, what is this that's coming down there? What are we supposed to use for this? So all these enzymes are scratching their head. They're doing the best they can, but they don't have any idea what this is. They never saw it before creation, and after creation, it never saw it before the food processing industry. So you wonder why the first 10 generations of man lived for an average of over 900 years. And then slowly we've gone down to, as the psalmist says, 70, about 80 years. And if you're fortunate, you get a few more years, right? Because the body just can't take it. It just says, you know what? It's time for me to either go down or up. I can't handle this anymore in my earthly existence. So it puts a huge burden on the digestive system for it to try to do the best it can to break it down and eliminate it. And then, you talked about before in terms of what it does in terms of congestion, the building up of tumor cells, because you build up there's 3 types of cells. There are what are called alpha cells, which is a perfectly healthy, active, alive cell. There are delta cells that are breaking down. And then there's the omega cells. Those are dead and dying cells that they're not being fed, that aren't being replaced, and they accumulate in the body. And that's where the tumors come from, et cetera. And the accumulation of it is where you get a lot of the, like I said, the tumors, the marks on the body, the liver spots, and all that other kind of stuff. So you can see how, once you go back to the laws of health, you don't need chemo, radiation, and surgery. You need, there's a natural chemo, right? Vegetable juices. There's a natural radiation. It's called sunlight. And there is a surgery. It's a very painful surgery that you have to go through as a natural health practitioner, more painful than a knife or a gun. But you got to go through it. And it's cutting out the poor dietary lifestyle and all those factors that are not in harmony with God's laws. That's painful. I can tell you, it was painful for me. I can show you the battle scars, but I hung in there, gone through God's surgery, and now I can tell you it's been a blessing.
So
for my clients.
So a lot of things that we've accepted as normal are not normal. They are directly.
Well, they are normal. They are normal because it's the norm, but it's not ideal.
Not ideal. But it's in essence, it should not be from if you're looking at it from a God's perspective, biblical.
Correct.
It's not what has to be. It's not what should be. We are
Correct.
doing something to cause the tumors, with whether it's the what we're eating, what we're drinking, or whatever. It's the environment we're in, and so some people actually might be innocently doing it. So maybe it's stress, overworking, maybe it's trauma, and so there's anxiety, but there's a causal connection to these conditions that we're getting, and the way that we live, the way this world is, and this is what you seek to do. You seek to teach people and to show them this connection so that it can be broken by the help of God, and healing can come. And I like how you do that. Like in the video you mentioned about meat, you said, look, it's not best or ideal to eat it. However, understanding that some people are not going to stop today, you actually say, if you're not really going to do it, stop today. Let me help you out. How do you help somebody who's just said, look, I'm just not gonna stop eating it? What is it? You mentioned some things they can actually eat along with it to help somewhat.
Yeah, I try to give some principles to help. For example, and one of the great neutralizers is vegetables. Vegetables combine, all kinds of vegetables combine very well with green leafy vegetables in particular, combined with all kinds of starches. So I encourage people to at least start with a salad, because it has all these vegetables that have the enzymes in there, help you to break down, and they work well either with meat, or if you're a meat eater, or with proteins, or with starches. So you can have a nice meal. And the rule of thumb I tell them, if you want to protect yourself against one of these potlucks, eat a salad before you go ham. Get some roughage in there, so that you don't want to go in there on empty, because if you do, the people who are putting the potluck out there, if they don't move their hands fast enough, they're gonna draw back a nub because you're so hungry. So you want to do is, I try to, and I do it with humor, so that people can see you don't have to become monastic again and have a long face and become an ascetic and become a nuisance to everybody. But information is power. And so my whole thing is about empowerment. I want to empower people, not even on my schedule. If they don't ask me, I don't say anything. But I tell people, don't ask me, because I'm going to tell you what I think. And I'm going to do it in the most dignified way that I can. So I try to show them that, like fruit, for example, it combines very well with certain neutral vegetables, and I even recommend it because the fruits are, the way they've been hybridized, they're too sweet. So I even recommend don't eat fruit alone. Eat it with a little bit of lettuce, cucumber, or celery, or with nuts and seeds, which is very compatible. So what I try to do is show them compatible combinations. You see what I'm saying? Or even like some fruit, like the sun-dried dates and raisins and figs, they go well on a salad. So there are exceptions and ways of combining. So what I try to do is not only give information, but try to empower with principles and different kinds of ways that you can navigate through this without becoming a pariah at the potluck. So, I don't want people hiding from me. I want to talk and be friendly and everything else. And see, this is where you need to pray for me, Cynthia. All these people that bring me there to do their taste testing, I do it. I pray like anything. But I'm not going to embarrass anybody. I'm not going to belittle them. You work with them where they are, and that's when they're in the mood to say, well, you know what? How come you eating like that? And then I'll share a little perspective. And I'm not going there with a little saucer. I mean, sometimes I have the big hand syndrome too. But it's a big hands that's well thought out and combined properly. So, some people look at me and they say, you know what? The way you eat sometimes, you should be as big as a horse. And the funny thing about it is, with proper food combining, you go to your natural weight because you eliminate those things that you don't need. So you remember I said it's about elimination or assimilation. So your body will take in what it needs. And my gastrointestinal, I used to think having a bowel movement once every 3 or 4 or 5 days was not natural.
Wow.
After I did this, now I have like 2-3 bowel movements a day. And so
I'll say that again. So, because there are people out there who really believe that it should be every couple of days before they do. They don't know that's the way it's supposed to be after every meal. And I think that's a very important point.
Very good, Cynthia. You're right. You should have a bowel movement per meal. So per the number of meals. So if you have 2 meals a day, which a lot of people are on, you should have 2 bowel movements a day. If you have 3 meals a day, it should be 3 bowel movements a day. And so forth. Some people are snackers and all that other kind of stuff. And based on your type of job you have, et cetera, you can take more liberties, eat more meals a day, et cetera. And even remember I talked about this author, my favorite author outside the Bible, Ellen G. White. She even says 2 meals are better than 3, because she says that, and this, I was floored when I saw that of all of the 12 systems in the body, the circulatory system, the integumentary system, all of the systems, all the 12 systems, the one that takes up the most energy is digestive system. So that's why you see these profound healings when people fast. As a matter of fact, one of my standing Josephs, this guy, he was in his 50s, he was overweight, this, that, and that. He was tired of living, and he wanted to commit suicide. And he stopped eating. He lost weight. He got so healthy that after a number of weeks, his body got rid of this burden, and he added another 30 productive years to his life. So understanding these things, understanding all of these interconnections, some basics of anatomy and physiology. And incidentally, you mentioned before, in all of my courses, my certification courses and my degree courses, counsels on diets and foods is a requirement. I don't care how smart you are. And the other one, counsels on health, is an elective, but that's a requirement. I mean, this has been such a change, been so empowering to me that I make this a part of a requirement in our curriculum.
And the thing is, when people, if they would read and investigate, Ellen G. White, she says that she always directs you back to the Bible.
Amen.
And she says that, really, if we would take the time to just thoroughly immerse ourselves in the Bible, that they could find what God has given to her in her books. And of course, it's easier for us sometimes to get it because of our maybe spirituality, time, to just go straight to a health book versus going through the Bible and then gleaning from all the the pages and coming up with these principles. But in the Old Testament, if you would look at it, God fed the Israelites manna twice a day. It was 2 times. And I believe that when he fed Elijah, when he had the birds feed Elijah, I think they came twice a day as well. So the principles are there. You read her books and you can go back and see where some of the things are coming from. But you just got to really put in the time. And then sometimes in the Bible, maybe it doesn't jump out at you, but it's there. But that's why the Bible, it says, search the scriptures. Now, to help people like me out, I love sandwiches, and I heard what you said about them. Now, I do know about the white bread, and so I'm not going with the bleached bread. I'm doing the whole grains. But what can I put on? Is there anything I can put on that bread?
Oh, yeah.
Other than, I try to put the lettuce and the tomatoes and whatever, and maybe some vegetarian meat, or maybe, but I mean, what kind of sandwiches can I do?
That's one of my favorite foods, and one of my go-to quick foods is sandwiches. But there's a couple of tricks. If you have the opportunity, and you mentioned it, you want to use whole grains first of all. So my favorite is, I found this sprouted grain and legume bread. It's so alive that you only can buy it in the freezer section of the store, because
like
the enzyme is still in there, it's still alive. So the key thing is the thing that I did, even with white bread, if that's all you have. So what I tell people, if you and my mother didn't know about food combining. So when I used to come over for the holidays, if she put this stuff on, I didn't go and punch her in the mouth. Said, Mom, what are you trying to do? Kill me? There were these little tricks. So you can even take white bread, but of course you take the grain bread like you're eating, Cynthia, toast it, because that dextrinizes it, makes it easier on the digestion. And then you
grain. Toast the grain bread.
Right.
Well, let's start with the white bread, because there are people on white bread. How help people out who are eating white bread? What can they do if they're just not going to stop?
Toast it. Yeah, because you can't break it down. It's so starchy that it's like a bomb. Put it in your stomach. It's bloop. You get this blob there that it can't break down. So it's like eating glue. And if you notice, if you take white bread and you squeeze it up and you put it in water, you can make a nice little dumpling ball out of it, and it doesn't break down. So think of that, boom, in your stomach. So you want to toast it. So when I go to a restaurant, if they don't have, or I went to somebody's house and they don't have brown bread, I don't pull out the skull bone and axe and say, I repudiate you. I said, you know what? That's good, Sister Cynthia. Can you toast that bread for me? So, I'm not even teaching anything. I'm just saying, you know what? I just like that toast. It's nice and quick. And that dextrinizes it. It breaks it down. If you notice, when you toast it, it breaks down. You take the bread, you can make a nice little ball. You throw it in, you'll knock somebody out. It's a piece of blob. It's a lump. It's a lump of clay, right? So those are the little tricks. So you want to toast. Even when I go to Subways, you know what I do? I get the 7-grain bread or the multigrain bread. I say, can you toast that for me? Now, I don't give them a lecture on food combining, but the more you know, the more you can start to at least mitigate the damage, right? So it's basically understanding these little techniques. And then, of course, when I go to Subways, I mean, a vegetable is in trouble, because I put everything on there. Onions, lettuce, tomato, the peppers. The guy looks at me like I come from another planet. And then if I'm particularly hungry, then I get that little veggie meat. I'm telling you, I got a thing. It's fatter than the other stuff, and it has everything in it, and it holds me. I don't even need 12 inches, 6 inches of that. But what I do is I say, can you toast that bread for me? And then they toast it. They basically just pass it by. I said, can you do it again? And I said, I'll stand back here. You can go before me. I'll just wait and do the best I can. I'll give you a perfect example. So even when you go to a restaurant, you get the, you got the tofu eggs and everything. And back in the day, I used to love my biscuits. So what I did, there was the biscuits. I said, can you toast that for me? That was that's
Interesting.
biscuit. So I toasted the biscuit. See, so that's what you want to do, because the starchy glob can't be broken down too efficiently. Now, worst case, if I'm in a hurry, this, that, and the other thing. You remember I started out by saying I was allergic to 103 different things, including my first wife. Guess what?
Mhm.
I'm not allergic to any of those 103 things anymore. And people
Wow.
ask me, you know what they asked me? They said, Dr. Sharps, can you eat this? Can you eat that? You know what I say? I can eat anything because I don't. My digestive system is so strong because so if I go to somebody's house and I have something that I used to have a problem with, my digestive juices says, you know what? You got to come back with something stronger than that and more often. You know, I have the digestive system of a wild bull, even though I look like a puny ape. But that digestive system is strong. It has good, strong, the liver is working. See, the liver makes those enzymes. So I know the function integrity of my liver is high. That's a whole different topic in terms of how you analyze this and determine what your requirements and capacities are. But my system is the system of somebody 30 to 40 years younger than me. That's why even now, you might not know this, I'm kind of a world-class athlete, senior athlete,
Wow.
in addition to all this stuff. And I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this, but because of my diet and lifestyle and my competition, they asked me, I'm like #1 in the world, skinny looking guy like me, in my major events. And then I'm not talking about paddleball. I'm talking about triple jump. I'm talking about hurdles. I'm talking about running full speed, jumping over barriers. But my bones are strong. And I did it. Well, I don't want to focus on it, but the point is, I can tell you personally, as well as since I have a practice, I see the miracles. That's why you see me so enthusiastic. And you don't see me hedging. Say, well, you know what? I've been blessed with understanding these laws and working with a lot of people who are interested. And I continue to see these miracles. And the first miracle was, guess what? You know what everybody's first miracle needs to be? It needs to be themselves. You need to become your first client before you start talking to somebody else about helping them with their diet and lifestyle. And I know you know what I'm talking about. I'm singing to the choir.
It starts with each person, and because the moat beam thing, the Bible talks about that. It starts with each person, and
Physician, heal
each
thyself.
person would go before God and then focus on, Lord, help me, Lord, show
Amen.
me. This interesting, because in your 30s, I mean, you had a number of medical conditions and could have been on your way out. How old are you now?
I'm 76 and a half.
Wow. Wow. And your skin, it looks very good from what I can see. You look,
Yeah,
very
a
nice.
lot of people think I'm a lot younger than I am. And I did a bone density test. Now that I have all this, see, I'm on the endangered species list. I'm an old man with all these viruses and everything. So they treat me like a god. When I go to Sam's Club, I get concierge service. I don't even have to get out of the car. I open up the trunk, they run and get the toilet paper for me and everything. But the fact of the matter is, the bone density test that I took, they basically, the results that came back is I had the bone density of somebody at minimum 20 to 30 years younger than myself. And if you look at the events that I'm doing, I recover faster. I don't break. I'm nothing breaking. I remember I said I had chronic back problems. I don't have. Even my adjustments hold for years now, where I was a chiropractic junkie for the first few years, where I had to see a chiropractor sometimes 2-3 times a week just to be able to function and be out of pain. And now I really go, and I'm competing.
There are a lot of people, who are having pain. I saw millions of Americans daily, and who would need to hear this testimony from you. I mean, this is just amazing.
Fractures, all this stuff. All that stuff. See, and fundamentally, if you let me just make this key point, when you compromise your diet and lifestyle, especially the diet, as we're talking about food combining, and you're not assimilating those minerals, guess what the body has to do? It has to go into your bank account. Where is your biggest bank account for the minerals in the body? It's your skeletal system in your teeth. So it pulls, see the single biggest, we didn't talk about this, but the single biggest mineral is calcium. And you know what? Let me just share this quick thing. You know, I used to always scratch my head and I prayed to God. I said, how come I have more female clients than men clients? I never understood this. 70 to 80% of my clients are females. And I thought, and I said, and I know they're not crybabies. They're tougher than men because men can't have no baby. And when I had my kidney stone and they told me that's like having a baby, that's when I first said, you know what? Women are the strong. I said, I bless them. So women are the superiors. That's a whole story. I can prove it to you. But the point is, the reason why I see more women than men, because during their reproductive years, women require up to 700% more calcium than men. Wow. And if they're eating the same diet and lifestyle, they're the ones with the complaints. But they go to the doctor, they can't find anything until they get to a certain threshold. I mean, way down to the below 30%. But while you're in that 50 to 60% threshold and you're having all these issues, they want to put you on Zoloft or Paxil because it's in your mind. It's a physiological thing. There's even a standard joke in my field that women, for every baby they have, they give up a tooth because their diet and lifestyle isn't rich. The baby, the nature wants to give all of those nutrients to the baby for a fully formed baby. And so you're pulling it, and where is the most of your calcium and your phosphates in your teeth and your skeleton? That's why by the time most of the hip fractures are women in their 40s and their 50s, 60s, because they're giving up all this. And that's what happens. You're drawing from your account. So this proper food combining is allowing you to take these minerals and to you don't want to hear something funny? I'm not going to go into any details. I learned of another principle 6 years ago when I was 70. I joined senior track and field at the age of 67. And I'm very competitive, as you probably can tell. And I don't want to be one of the top 20 or 50. I wanted to be one of the top 2 or 3, which is where now this is 6 years later. This is another one of my topics. But when I did this and I applied it to my food combining and everything else, I grew 3/8 of an inch in 6 years. Yep. And what happens is, and I always wondered why my father told me he was 5'11". And when you're little, you know, he looks like he's 8 feet tall. But I remember when I grew up and I reached adult height, I was taller than him. He was 5'9" and I was 5'10". And a couple of years, I started to drift down a little bit. And I found out by accident because of my youngest kid was a teenager then, and we were having bets and everything about diet and everything. But anyway, I measured and I said, wow, I lost about 3/8 of an inch. And I knew, and I knew diet and lifestyle, but then I added this other principles, rebuilding my minerals, and I gained them. And I found out just a few months ago, he's 6'2", 6'3" now. And I measured him back then at age 70 when I did this. And I tell you, I'm 76 now. I measured myself. And I went back up to my 5'10". So I gained back my 3/8 of an inch. And I know it's possible because one of my heroes is Ben Levinson. You know about Ben Levinson?
No, never heard of him.
Ben Levinson was a 92-year-old guy who was depressed, had skin issues, had heart problems, all kinds of problems, and he wanted to commit suicide. Long story short, he was talked into doing diet and lifestyle, the kind of stuff that we teach, Cynthia. At the age of 103, he broke the world record for people throwing the shot put for people over 100 at the age of 103, and he grew 2 inches. And so, you know, he was starting to become compressed with all of those compromises. And what he did was he refilled it all.
How?
And with proper food combining and with diet and lifestyle and understanding what your requirements and capacity is, even if you have a cavity, this is so powerful that you can rebuild the teeth. It'll push the cavity right out and restore your teeth. Now, I didn't know that. I just learned this about 6 years ago. So God, now it's his laws. And see, God keeps taking me to higher and higher ground. And the more I accept and the more that I commit to, the more he's willing to show me. And so it took me 70 years for him to bring this to my attention. And now at 76, I can't wait. I can't wait till I'm 80. Right now, I'm ranked like #1 in like 2 or 3 events. I want to break world records.
Awesome.
And you know, you want to hear something funny? I have a life. I have a practice, I have a school. I don't practice more than 20 to 40 minutes, 2 to 3 days a week. And I'm beating all these guys, working out an hour because I'm intelligently integrating God's natural laws. And so when I say it's the most powerful system known to man, and why you see me so excited and so passionate, I've seen it in myself.
Yes, you're a living testimony.
And I become a one-person research study because most people don't want to do this crazy stuff. But now I'm getting people who said, you know what? Help me. And so I'm working with a guy now, one of our students. He graduated from a doctorate program in Africa. He's working with this athletic association where they're trying to maximize the athletic performance. And he knows that I'm an athlete and he sees where and so I'm working with him now to use this system that I'm talking about to improve their diet, lifestyle, and apply these principles for understanding what your individual requires. Because see, your requirements are different than mine, right? Mm-hmm. And your capacity is different than mine. What if you knew exactly what you were and what was the perfect diet for you? Which is
I would love to know that.
Yeah, that's my other topic. So maybe one of these days we can talk about that someday.
Well, I would love to have you back, most definitely, because I know that you have done a number of seminars, I guess maybe written some books, I don't know. But there are two more things I definitely want to talk to you about today. The frontal lobe. Can what we eat affect the frontal lobe of the brain? And if so, can that directly impact our spirituality, the spiritual part of ourselves?
Wow, that's powerful. And the answer is an unequivocal yes. The brain is the most important organ in the body. It uses 20% of the oxygen. It uses a lot of the nutrients, and there's specialized nutrients that it needs. So the way the body works, remember we talked about survival? The most important thing, the most important organ of the body is the brain. So the body will do whatever it can to preserve it. But as you go on, and a lot of the senility, a lot of the Parkinson's, a lot of the Alzheimer's would disappear overnight. And I've actually worked. I have a funny story. I had this 86-year-old. Actually, my client was 69, the female, and she and her husband had Alzheimer's, and she said, "Can I do anything?" She loved him. But anyhow, long story short, I worked with him, and after a few months, maybe a year and a half, she called up cursing me. She said, "You know what? I wish I never told about." I said, "Well, why you what?" Joking, of course. And she said, "Well, you know what? I forgot what a nuisance he was. He was always ordering me around this, that, and the other thing. And I felt sorry for him when he was talking to the TV and this, that, and the other thing." He said, "Now with your program, he's back to being the nuisance that he was before. He's remembering all this thing that he forgot." So yes, it does have a major, and a lot of the saints. Can I be real with you? Mm-hmm. A lot of the saints. You know what? I never understood this quote in Ellen G. White that says, and it was one of the reasons I knew I was in the right place. I didn't tell you after I became a Seventh-day Adventist. About 5 years later, I wanted to leave. I couldn't leave because remember I tell you, studied all these other philosophies and religions. Mm-hmm. There's no place for me to go. So I'm here for the long term. But there was a quote she said, and this is one of the reasons why I know she's a prophet. She says, "In the time of trouble, not 1 in 20 of the people's names are written on the books are going to be prepared." And then she talks about diet and lifestyle and this, that, and the other thing. And all of this stuff is basically weakening us and making us vulnerable so that when that time of trouble comes, we're not going to have the systemic resources to be able to stand tall. I see it now before the time of trouble. And you see the events that are going on around us that I call wake-up calls, what I call dress rehearsals, because when that time of trouble comes, it's going to be kind of tough. And so and I pray on it all the time. So like you call me, you've noticed I didn't call you. I said, "You know what? I want to be on your show," or whatever. No. As a matter of fact, can I tell you a funny story, a real quick story? I tried to retire at the age of 53. I had a nice little pension and everything at the age, and I had my doctorates. Me and Dr. Lisa were gonna move to the Caribbean and open up a smoothie stand and eat all this food and fresh air. And you want to hear something funny? Right after that, now I was in my 50s. You know, my oldest kids are in their 50s now. But so when we got married, she was already in she was 29, but then she got pregnant at the age of 37. And here I am, I'm 53, and I'm saying, I don't want any kids. But I was already baptized. I got baptized at 40. So you know what? You kind of pray. So I was reading the Bible. And we were ready, cash in and everything, and move over to the Caribbean. And you know what I said? Nobody ever retired in the Bible.
No,
right?
You take your last breath.
So I made a commitment to God that now I stopped advertising. I said, I'm not going to advertise. You don't see me advertising any place. I'm going to work with whoever he sends me. And I work with Muslims. I work with Buddhists. I work with anybody he sends me. Because he's in charge, not me, right? So
they're learning.
But let me tell you something funny. I forgot my promise. And at the age of 57, right around the Y2K, remember with all the problems with the computers and everything? I forgot my promise, and I was gonna. And he said, you know what? Let's forget about all it. Like you said, forget about Zoom wasn't there. Let's forget about Wi-Fi and all of this technology. Let's go back to. I forgot. I wanted to go to the Caribbean. She got pregnant again at the age of 41. And right then and there, that was the year 2000. I said, you know what? I will work until the last breath I have that you give me, that I'll work with anybody you send. So you look for me. You found me, I should say. I'm not looking for anybody. I'm minding my business. And you want to hear something?
Actually, somebody
who is growing and I'm getting busier.
Because you are needed. That somebody saw your video and shared it with me.
Right.
And I watched it and I said, oh yes, he has to be on the show. He has to be on The Awakening, because this is the programming that we need, where people will find out things that they don't know. Right. And so they can reach their highest God ordained potential. Amen. And also to be equipped spiritually, physically, emotionally, socially, psychologically, professionally, in every area to do what God has ordained. Amen. That's what this show is about.
Amen.
And so, the thing is, you're needed to train people worldwide. You're needed to train people.
We are. Don't say you. We. And that's not going to be any ministry outside of the medical ministry work at the end times. And you're there. You're teaching, you're hosting. So and I'm only working. Go ahead.
And people are hurting. People are suffering. And what's so sad is the majority, an overwhelming majority of these medical conditions that we're getting, if we knew of a better way, if we utilized a better way, we would not have. And that's just the saddest part of all of this, is that it's preventable. And that God in love Amen. Gave us the Bible, which actually is the greatest health manual that you could have. He gave it to us from the beginning. And you just can't get away from that if you want to have your highest vitality, the best health, just to go to the greatest heights that he's ordained. So I want people to be able, we definitely want you to come back, first of all, later when you have more availability. And two, we want you to tell people how they can reach you. I know you do seminars. You can maybe mention some of the subject areas. I know you mentioned something about the 10 Commandments of health. I saw that on your video. So you do seminars. Tell us a little bit about some of those. You also are the director and the CEO president of the IIOM. Tell us all about that. You mentioned some of that in the beginning, because the only Christian health organization that's accredited. So I want you to talk about that, but also you do private. You're in private practice. So tell us about how we can reach you and what your availability is and things that you have to offer.
Okay. Thank you for asking that. Yes, I'm the president and CEO of the International Institute of Original Medicine. And of course, original medicine is God's medicine. The bottom line, the 8 laws of health, these irrefutable, simple 8 laws of health that when you combine them and then integrate in a comprehensive fashion based on your requirements and capacity, it's the most powerful system known to man. So yes, that's the school. It's an international school. We're blessed with students on every continent on this planet. It's the only biblically based accredited school. It's the most comprehensive school, and we're accredited by several different organizations. But yes, so that's what my main day-to-day job is running that school with Dr. Lisa, who's the executive director. And we've been blessed now. My 2 youngest sons, remember I talked about back when I was 53 and 57, they're just now turning 20 and 24. And so they're going to help me with this load now. And,
excellent.
And so my oldest son, he has his doctorate now, working on his PhD. And my 20-year-old, actually, he had his bachelor's when he graduated from high school, and he has his master's degree. So they're helping me there. So what we're trying to do, and what we're praying on, kind of silently because I'm getting too old for this, is to have our own original medicine training and wellness center where we can come in and we want to teach people how to become practitioners and then have them come to retreats where they can get well, et cetera. So that's what we're about. And so, yes, I have a practice. As I said, my private practice has grown. Why? Now I have clients in Italy and New Zealand and England because of Zoom. So, and they're finding me. You know what? Remember I said one of the most popular, the most popular presentations is food combining. They're looking at this and they're saying, you know what? He makes sense. I want to be his client. So that's where I'm getting. So I still do. I don't do as many seminars. We're doing right now. We're doing a 10-week Zoom program, 2-hour a week on a major health initiative. For 10 weeks that we're doing with people all around the world, incidentally, people in Australia, New Zealand, United States, and it's a lot of our student graduates where I'm teaching them these principles. And this principle that I talked about in terms of understanding individual requirements, capacities, and matching the diet to that. So that's what we're teaching. And so we're looking at, right now we network with lifestyle centers. So right now, when they come to us and say, you know what, you're going to need, I said, you need to go to one of my lifestyle centers. They said, you have a lifestyle center? I said, oh, no. I network with, but they kept saying that. And I said, Dr. Lisa, you know what? We need to have our own.
Yes,
so
you do.
We're going to develop our own, and we're going to basically do what I'm calling build the blueprint for the quintessential original medicine lifestyle center. So lay out that blueprint, share it with anybody who wants it. And you know what? A lot of our graduates, guess what they want to do, Cynthia? They want to, these are God-fearing people. They want to help the saints. They'll open up their lifestyle centers. So we want to help them with the blueprint and support them in building their lifestyle centers. And so with my consultations, with the handful of seminars that I still do, the primary emphasis is the school. So you said, how can you reach us? The best way to reach us is info@iiomonline.com. That's the website that we have. And we have a few people that manage that. And if you notice, this is the first time we talk. Dr. Elisa manages, you know, like I like to tell people, you can see I'm the pretty face of the operation. Dr. Elisa's, and you know, you women are the ones that really do everything. But the pretty face out there doing all the talking. I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit. I have some assigned things, but she runs everything. She manages all of the students, the curriculum manager, the Facebook presence, my schedule, because I love doing what I do, even though I get busy sometimes. And so years ago, we made a decision. She does all the scheduling. Because what happened one time, I was scheduled for 3 things. I had a person in my office, somebody came in for that same time, and I was supposed to be in another state giving a presentation. So years ago, a little over 20 years ago, I have nothing to do with the finances and nothing to do with the schedule. Dr. Lisa runs that, and info@IIOM, which stands for International Institute of Original Medicine, online, all spelled out, IIOM, ONLINE.com is the best email, because she gets that, and she has other people, actually a person in Texas, we're in Virginia. So, in this day and age, you can use the technology to be able to have an outreach. And so I'm praying, but I'm kind of praying under my breath for this. We have this major fundraiser, and the thing is, we're starting to get the money. So I'm kind of saying, you know what? Why did I pray to God for me to put together this? I'm getting too old for this. but
it's so needed.
If I get it, I'm going to do it.
Yes.
Cynthia, I'm going to do it.
It's so needed.
And if my track and field have to suffer, it's going to suffer, because he's number one.
Yes.
And the ironic thing is, while I was on this, I pray for silly things too, like being number one. He made me number one. I just became I've been number one for 6 years in my specialty. Now I'm like number one in like 5, 6, 7 events. I said, well, God, you gave me everything I wanted. Maybe it's time for me to go. And if I have to quit track and field, guess what? I might even start a little track and field clinic using God's, with this guy in Africa that I told you about, using God's. So I'm going to get God in there wherever I can, whether you're an athlete, whether you're homeless, whether you have 15 PhDs, whether you're a dropout. God loves everybody. And I
in every aspect of our lives.
Right. If he can love a heathen like me, he can love anybody.
You're right. And the thing is, and he's out, and God is it's important to every aspect of our lives, every aspect of our beings. And you have mentioned that, this is open to all people to come in to be treated. You treat people no matter what their religious background is, no matter what their educational level or anything like that. And so this is wonderful. Now, your food combination, you actually have a free chart up, and they reach out to your website and everything, they can actually see this free chart. And you know what? I wholeheartedly
anybody can have
what you're doing. If there's anything that I can help, just let your wife know, and give me a call, because I wholeheartedly support this. But we will be having you back, most definitely.
It's been a pleasure. I enjoyed. I enjoyed meeting you and the association, and I'm going to be praying for you. You have a very important ministry. We all have our individual parts. Yeah, I can see now you do such a fine job. You do it with elegance and grace and dignity, and we all, as you said, see, I can't do what you do, but you might not be able to do all the things that I can do. But you know what? We have all these separate fingers, all these different talents. You put it together, you get a powerful force, especially if the impetus is God behind it. And so we all need to work together to get the saints ready. See, my objective is, people say, well, how many students do you want? I said, I just want to play my role in equipping and qualifying the 144,000.
Yes. Oh, awesome answer. Awesome.
So we have to dream high, think big, and then let the big kahuna in the sky, let God run it, and we just faithful and obedient. I know I'm singing to the choir.
Well, I can tell you that it's been very wonderful meeting you. It's been great having you on the show. We'll be reaching out to you in the next few months or so to get you back again. And just thank you, Dr. Sharps, for being on The Awakening.
Okay, and I'd like to wish God's richest blessings for you and all your ministries and all of your audience as well.
And I would just like to say to our listening audience, please remember that what has been, by the grace of God, it does not have to continue to be. And what hasn't been, with the help of God, it can be. This is Cynthia Talbert, and you're listening to The Awakening. Thank you for joining us. Until the next time, have a very nice afternoon.